Some people will go for very high probability strategies, putting on lots of risk and trying to go for what they call income producing strategies, which is kind of a misnomer. And then there are the other side of the coin, people who are more interested in collecting the return and putting on capital efficient trades. So in other words, they want to put on the smallest amount of risk for the maximum amount of gain. And that's really the smart way to do it. And that's the way a pro would do it. A retail trader would actually go for the strategy that would produce the best dopamine drip, right? If you don't know what that means, dopamine is a chemical that makes us feel good, that our body produces. When you eat chocolate, it actually raises the dopamine levels in you by more than 50%. When you smoke a cigarette, it raises it by almost 100%. When you do cocaine, it raises it by about 200 or 300%. So dopamine, you also get that rise in dopamine every time you get something that affects you positively or makes you feel good, like winning, right? And if you're making a lot of these tiny small wins, you're essentially injecting yourself with a little bit of dopamine all the time. And it kind of clouds your vision or your judgment a bit, because it makes these tiny little wins seem like they're more than they actually are, and hides your head from the pending risk that you have of that huge amount of risk that you take for the privilege of getting a high probability win. However, from a retail trader's point of view, that's fine by them, because they think that they can just get that risk out of their mind and deal with it when they have to. Of course, this is sort of like the bane of the existence of any retail day trader. And it's also the reason why the vast majority of retail traders fail. 98% of retail traders fail. They may not fail in the first 3 months, but in 90 days, 80% of them gone, account wiped out. But eventually, 98% of them, they will lose all their money. But from a retail trader's point of view, out of sight, out of mind. But in the meantime, just keep on injecting that dopamine. I'm fine. From a professional trader, we're looking at the long term. Everything is about long-term returns and consistency, not over weeks, not over months, but over years. Year after year after year, you want to be able to know that you can go into the market and consistently take a return and be pretty predictive about the amount of money that you put into it and what you'll get out of it. Now, it's not easy just to do it, just to say, hey, I trade this way, that way. It happens. A pro trader needs to be skilled. They need to develop a process. They need to develop the correct habits and a continuous improvement process that will allow them to recognize when they get off track, to get back on track. That's really what a pro is all about. A pro is all about perfecting the fundamentals of everything that they do, not just their execution, but every aspect of their trading life. From the time they wake up to the time they go to bed. It's really that simple. And on top of that, you have to be, like I said, in this kind of continuous improvement process, which means that you have to be able to journal and log your trades and analyze them in such a way that you can recognize or see patterns, behavior that are getting you off track. You know, one of the biggest things that hurts people in the short term is something called, if you've ever played poker, then you probably know this term, and it's called going on tilt. And it's a death spiral that you get into. You think you're doing well, and then all of a sudden you start making one bet, you make a loss, you think you're going to make up for it, so you double down or you do something stupid, and then before you know it, you've gone from what appeared to be a winning streak to in the debt, in the dregs of despair. And that's something that a pro very rarely does. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but because a pro is looking out for those signs, those signals of getting off track, and then knowing how to evaluate it, knowing how to discover it, and then come up with a cessation or the plan to get yourself out of it, is sort of a regular experience with a pro. A retail trader, they're still on that dopamine drip, and they think everything's going to be okay until everything isn't.